And happy Halloween. Welcome to the Q3 design release of Brightlayer UI. And let me share my screen so that I can get the PowerPoint going. It's all right. So my name is Huayuan Huang. If you don't know me yet, I'll be a little sad, but I am the best designer at Brightlayer UI interface. Of course, you can brag about yourself a lot when you're the only designer at Brightlayer UI interface, Brightlayer interface. UI. And it's been a while since we had a meeting format like this. So just as a recap for what happened since the beginning of this year, I believe, when we last met, there has been quite a few releases on the design side. So just as a quick recap, in case you missed the previous design release email or change log items, or maybe you're not even on the mailing list, we released a few items. First is we did add a few buttons on our documentation site on the top right corner, where we just give a shout out to various other design systems or design resources to help you guys better navigate around all Eaton design assets. Second is we added a new page on our documentation site for design trainings for non-designers. This is targeted at front-end engineers or PMs. I know quite a few Eaton projects who does not have an in-house designers, and some of the developers are sort of forced, or even PM themselves are forced to convert into a designer role to actually go and design the user interface and to understand user need. Now, personally speaking, I have never run into a Eaton project where the developers or PMs or any non-designers were able to outperform a more professionally trained designers on the first go. Maybe after a few more iterations, they get more used to trade, they can pick it up a little bit better. So just to help to ease the learning curve for these projects, if they need to learn better how to design, here are some documentations for how to do design trainings for non-designers. And you can find this under, I need to fix a typo here, designing with a brighter UI for non-designers. You can navigate it there on our website. And the third little item, big items we release is design pattern guidelines for tags. That is the typical design pattern guidelines for our UI components, UI elements. So when, where, and how to use tags properly in your design. So again, you can find this under design patterns and go look for tags on our website. Definitely give it a read, because I see a lot of Eaton projects are trying to use tags for their tables or list items, so that can be beneficial read in case you want to sharpen your design skills. Now onto this release. For today, we are dropping the brighter UI component sticker sheet, but in Material Design 3 style. Now, if you are not familiar with what is Material Design 3, a little bit of a background for those new to this domain, this realm here. So Brighter UI inherits many of their design assets from Material Design. And in 2021, which is, wow, 2 years ago, Material Design updated from Material Design 2 to Material Design 3. So on the top is an example of how drastic it changed, mostly on the style side. And as you can see, there's different ways of using colors and different way of using fonts, shadows, etc., to make it look more modern and less obsolete, like those designs from 15 years ago. And since Brighter UI on the bottom, we are inheriting a lot of Material Design assets and sort of customize it to make it Eatonize it, to make it fit with Eaton's brand, as Material Design 2 is upgrading to Material Design 3, Brightlayer UI is also looking to upgrading Brightlayer UI, morph it into like Brightlayer UI 4 almost, largely due to the community aspect of this. That is all the community library on the developer side. They are also following the migration. And if we do not migrate, then gradually we are going to be losing all these advantages from outside Eaton's people's support almost, who is providing all the components and theme structures and bug fixes. And so yeah, we have to sort of catch it up. And also on the design side, we were able to address a few accessibility issues that have been plaguing the design system for a little while. So overall, it's going to be a more of a burden on the design side. I know I had to redo all the components in the sheet, which we are releasing today. But we believe that in the long term, this is beneficial uh, for Eaton as a whole and for how we provide support for the design system. This change will be gradual, so it's not like we are going to be pulling the plug immediately for both design side and developer side. And then we'll be talking about this in a brief moment. So just a quick sneak peek of Brightlayer UI with Material Design 3. This is a experiment I did quite a few months ago with a project called IPM. It's already released, but just to give you a pre-look of what Material Design 3 can, or Brightlayer UI with Material Design 3 can look like using an existing quite typical dashboard across many other Eaton projects. So that is admittedly a huge difference. So before you ask, yes, we did make a separate Figma library. So next time you go, if you want to play with it, it's definitely already released. You just have to go search for Brightlayer UI. When you go to Figma, and you click the Assets tab, and then you see a bunch of libraries. Click on that little book icon. You can search for Brightlayer UI tokens and the components in Material Design 3. And you can add it to your current file. And then you should be able to play with all the components and tokens. We'll talk about tokens in a second, just from that file. That said, the old one is still there. As we mentioned before, we are not going to be pulling the plug immediately. It will not be turned off anytime soon. In fact, I don't know. I don't think it can be turned off. I mean, I can unpublish it, but the components, it's not like they're gonna poof gone from your library without your consent. And I think we'll keep making it available in our list of design system component sticker sheets available to across all Eaton. However, we'll be providing it with a very limited support. That means that if you like to see something getting added to the old one, you can go ahead and make a branch. It's just like how GitHub works. We can create a branch on Figma as well. We'll be able to review and merge any of the good changes, good suggestions you have. But on the Brightlayer UI side, we will be mostly focusing on the new Material Design 3 component sheet from now. All right, speaking of which, some of the major changes back to the Material Design 3, some major changes from the most noticeable to least noticeable thing. We would like to give a shout out today. There's, well, colors, there's shapes, there's the use of shadows, there's some typography changes, and finally, a few components also morphed a little bit. We'll be going through these from top to bottom, and we'll be also talking about what you would expect from the new Figma component sheet once you have it enabled. So first, colors. Quite a few colors has changed. In fact, the old color palette structure no longer applies. So if you are not familiar with Brightlayer UI in Material Design 2's color palette, which is the one on the top, just as an example, for our blue accent colors, it used to be counting from 50 and then to 100, 200, 300, all the way to 900 for their luminosity. For Brightlayer UI color palette in Material Design 3, we realized that this particular shade of blue is not really Eden blue, and the second, it is not actually that accessible when you place it on a grayish background. So all these considerations, we are presenting you this new colors. Now you see that there's sort of two different two different types of color tokens. There's reference tokens, and there's what I call system or semantic tokens. So reference tokens is similar to what we are sort of already familiar with. So they also all have the color values. In this case, you have primary 100, 100, primary 99, primary 95, all the way to primary 10. Primary 0, which is essentially pure black. This is good in conveying what brightness you get. However, it's not as descriptive or not as semantic. So you will still have to. So if you're a heavy user of the old Brightlayer UI color palette, you might have to sort of remember that okay, everything I have to be using blue 500 all the time, or my primary text is black 500, or my background is white 200. That is a lot to remember, especially for somebody who's new to the design system. I know we have a lot of contractors who need to be brought on board and to get familiar with everything. So with this new release, we would like to introduce what we call the semantic tokens. It has two names. Material Design like to call it system tokens, and Figma calling it semantic tokens. But really what it means is it gives an alias to certain colors. So in this case, primary, which is an alias of primary 40, which happens to be an alias for Eton blue, you will just be able to reference this as, okay, I'm going to color this button as primary, and then on primary will be the text on the primary colors. Or if you have a primary container for some reason that if you have a card, you sort of want to emphasize the status, but not wanting it to be too blue. We also have like primary container color, which is an alias of primary 90, which if you go back to the reference token, it's the same as this color. So we're hoping that by introducing this way of mapping system or semantic colors to reference colors, the color makes more sense. It's easier for new users of design system to understand what the roles of each colors are, and also making it easier to communicate to your developers, saying that we'll be sticking to our theme color, and this is the primary container color as opposed to this is the primary or blue 900 color. So a lot of things going on here, and I know this can be overwhelming for some people, in particular the old users of this system. So make sure that you take some time to understand, to digest this new system a little bit. Now, when it comes to Figma, what it means, before that, colors, there's also a few custom colors that we added, colors that are sort of outside the typical Material Design 3's theming or color tokens. structure that we found are not, they do not exist in material design, but we find it's essential for Eaton's business. So in particular, this example on the right, the error color, if you use the error color token as it is, as mandated by material design, it is good for text in terms of accessibility. It is very dark in light theme, relatively dark in light theme, and very bright in the dark theme, so that you will be able to read the text bright and sharp and crispy. However, this is not that ideal for status, because your essentially this is not the dark theme error color right here is not as red, and it can feel off, especially for our technicians, and we sort of really want the red to stay red. So I introduced a few custom colors. So for example, this error non-text color, if you can think of a better name, let me know. But it's a custom color added by Brightlayer UI, so that the red stays saturated and stay consistent between light and dark theme. So yeah, most of these are status colors, and they need to stay consistent across light and dark theme and be easily recognizable. Right now, they only exist as tokens in Figma, but we'll be adding more guidelines about how exactly to use these colors in the future. So what do they look like in Figma? They are stored as, I know there's a lot of names here, they are stored as what Figma likes to call it variables. Variables, it's called everywhere else tokens, but Figma calling it variables. If you're a developer, that's exactly what it would sounds like to you. Global variables, local variables, whatever. They are the little piece of almost like a hex code, but stored with this more semantic meaning to it. I think the part of the reason why they're calling it variables is because they can actually be modified in some other Figma prototyping functions. And you are able, for designers, you are able to use them just like how you use the existing styles. So as a comparison on the right here, I just pasted some screenshots. This is the old component sticker sheet, what it looks like, and you can see that all the styles are in this circular shape when you select them. But with tokens, with variables of Figma, they are more square-ish, just to distinguish between the two, but they function exactly the same. So it's just to highlight the difference. Now, if you are still unsure, unfamiliar about how exactly tokens or Figma variables work, Figma does have a video tutorial about it. So if you do not really feel like watching the whole hour-long or 2-hour-long, their deep dives learning sessions that they released during FigJam this year in May. They do have a YouTube video that lasts for only 15 minutes long, called Intro to Figma Variables. You can just search for it, and their tutorials has been consistently awesome. So definitely give it a try. And maybe once you understand, once you're more familiar with how exactly these tokens or variables will work, you can even experiment with creating your own Figma variables. And some people said that it has been very beneficial to their everyday Eaton prototyping work. And another note is all these tokens, all semantic tokens, they have both light theme and the dark theme version. So you can very easily toggle between the two themes as shown by this GIF on the right here. You can just select it, And on the right, you will see under layers, you have this option where you can click on that drop down thing, and it will give you the option to choose between auto, which sort of inherits its parent color mode, or you can force it to be light mode and dark mode, and you'll be able to preview your design, your same design, if you've been using color properly, preview your design in both light mode and dark mode. Now, there is a small caveat here. The technical limitations is if you use gradient colors, they cannot be stored as tokens. And as far as I know, last time I checked, this is not on the roadmap yet, on Figma's roadmap yet. So we cannot, if you use gradient colors in places like app bars or data visualizations, there might be some trouble just toggling it around like this. But other than that, it has been a very consistent experience. All right, enough about colors. Let's talk a little bit about shapes. Now, when it comes to shapes, if I try to sum it up, many things get rounder. So if you're an old user, if you're an existing user of our old design system, everything used to be 4-pixel border radius, this little, or this rounded corner here, everything's 4, from something as large as a card to something as small as a button. Now it varies between different components. So in this particular case, this card, I believe, has a 12-pixel border radius. Now there's 7 different border radii specified in Material Design 3, from none to extra small to small all the way to full, which is making it as round as possible. Now, shapes in Figma shapes has been imported into Figma also in the form of variables. You can, just like other variables, you can click on that little hexagon icon to choose from these predefined corner radii. You can search using certain keywords, like in this case, this GIF on the right here, we search for cars, and it gives me this medium corner radius. And once you have it selected, your cars will be able to change to medium. And this applies to if you try to change only one corner but not the other 3, this works as well. Now, shadows. Shadows are a very prominent thing from Material Design 2. In fact, the namesake of material design comes from real life materials, in particular papers. And they try to communicate the elevation of your user interface, like if the card is in front of another card, or if a button sits on top of a dialog box. They communicate all these relationship using shadows, and the shadows are used literally everywhere. Now in Material Design 3, shadows are still used to express elevations, but it's used more sparingly. In particular, if you, I don't know how well this shows through Teams, but just take examples like buttons. Many of our existing buttons use shadows for elevations, but for new buttons, the default default field style is now flat, and the shadow only show when you hover on it. Or if you have still an elevated button style right here, this is like a level 1 elevation. When you hover on it, it changes to level 2, just so that it's greeting your mouse cursor almost like that. Now as usual, there's a lot of subtleties to how you apply shadows. So make sure that you give a read through their Material Design 3's documentation via this link here. Shadows in Figma is fairly straightforward. It has been imported. So shadows are no longer measured in dp, the density pixels, but simplified to just values or just levels. Typography also changed. And to make it worse, there's no straightforward mapping between old and new styles. In particular, the ones that are headline 6, headline 5, they all get changed with this update. There are more small fonts, or what they call labels. So this might be a little bit hard to read from the PowerPoint, but you now have displays, headlines, titles, labels, and bodies, where titles is just what it sounds like. Labels are meant for things like buttons and word tags, and the bodies are meant for body tags, the ones that are placed inside a card or in the list item, etc. And you might have noticed this, but we are trying to introduce the Eaton font into our design system. However, there's some small imperfection with the Eaton font that, and also some technical challenges about for how large the app is going to be if we try to incorporate two separate fonts. So we're still exploring the option to using Eaton fonts for larger font sizes, especially for places like app bars where the sort of needs more horizontal space, and Eaton font happen to be more compact, so you can fit more text in, and also it express more branding value in it. So typography in Figma, all these new typography changes have been added to the new secret sheet. That includes the Eaton fonts as well. So starting today, you'll be able to just test it out, try Eaton fonts for your for large bar items or any other places where you need the styling and the branding. Now, just a quick note that Eaton fonts is only available, I believe, through through the Figma app. You cannot use it in. You cannot use Figma in browser if you want to see the Eaton fonts in action. This is the one of the little nuances for the parity between Figma app and you try to use the Figma in browser. And finally, components. So a few components have changed their look, but not a lot. They're mostly still recognizable. And most of those changed because of the accessibility concerns. So just as an example, this bottom navigation or navigation bar, this on the left is our old style, and you can see that in our existing style, pretty much everything is communicated through colors and maybe a little bit of font change. And if you have a colorblind user, this may not be as obvious to them. So in the new design, this is inherited directly from Material Design 3. We are having this sort of pill-shaped structure behind the icons to make it really obvious that this one is the selected item. Switches is another very good example. I cannot be the only person who has ever wondered in my life when iPhone was first introduced, which side of the switch is like enabled. And in the new design, they made it really obvious when a switch is active or when a switch is toggled off or on. You now have the option to add a little icon inside to really communicate it more clearly. So I really like the new style. But that said, most of the style remains the same. You'll still be able to search for the same components using the same old name. Components in Figma, all the components from the old sticker sheet have been added to the new sticker sheet, minus the data visualization part, which we'll be mentioning in a few minutes. But all the components, that is literally all the components. Uh, this is what the sticker sheet currently looks like. And you can see from all the way from app bars to a few new stuff actually, to buttons, chips, etc. They are all in. And you should be able to just search for them and use it just like your old component sticker sheet. All right. And that's not all of it. We add a few more stuff to make your life easier. In particular, email templates is something that I've been asked consistently. And finally, thanks to Fiji, I will not mention what it's for, but it's a Eden project, and I was finally be able to steal a lot of glorious designs. Kudos to Eric uh, for all the email templates, and they are now available in both light theme and dark theme, in both mobile and desktop. And they are also searchable via the new component sticker sheet, not in the old, but in the new component sticker sheet. So if you need the email templates, make sure to give them a try. There's a bit more iOS menus. For example, this exporting slash sharing or uploading options. I've added those as well. Yeah. And all these are available to anybody inside the Eden organization. However, if for some reason you do not have a Figma editor, right, like you want to try out everything by yourself, or you are not added to the Eden organization to begin with, like a new contractor who does not have not received their Eden.com email address yet, the file we just talked about, it is also available as a Figma community file. So if you're not familiar with what Figma community is, it is a brilliant place for anybody around the whole world to publish their design ideas, design concepts in Figma. It includes inspirations or design systems or visual assets, a lot of stuff. In fact, the iOS menus that just got added is borrowed from one of these community files as well. They are all licensed under Creative Commons, so copyright is not a concern. But you will be, for our file, for our component sticker sheet, you'll be able to simply search for Brightlayer UI in the Figma community, find the file, and right here, and once you click into it, there should be a button that says open in Figma. And once you do that, you'll have a local copy of the sticker sheet, and you can play with the sticker sheet with yourself. And as I mentioned before, this is great news for those who need to use the components but do not want to pay for a Figma editor cost, or for some reason cannot get added to the Eden organization. So all that said, definitely highly encourage you to try it out. You can simply go and start a new file. And as mentioned before, just add the Brightlayer UI tokens and components in Material Design 3 to the file and try it out for yourself today. It might get a little bit strange if you have both the old and the new component sticker sheet enabled at the same time though. So make sure you disable the old one and try out the new one. And let us know how you think. I'm hoping you like it. Okay, so for our next step, we'll definitely be continue migrating to Material Design 3. This includes updating our existing documentation site from Material Design 2 to Material Design 3, along with many other design assets that we've been supporting in the past. On the developer side, if your developers missed, for whatever reason, our developer release, well, shout out to them. They have a meeting record, and I believe the slides are also sent out. But just a quick note that we'll be updating all our developer assets as well. At the current stage, it means mostly React and React Native. We will be starting from React Native themes and color palette packages and our Brightlayer UI components. And in the next year, we'll be probably moving on to do further upgrades with React as Material UI become more mature. And we encourage you to keep monitoring our roadmaps for the details. So if you're not sure where to find our roadmap, is also on our website, and it's navigatable when you go in our website, select the site menu, and there's the drawer item called roadmap, and you should be able to see all the status for where we are and what's in progress and what's planned for the next quarter, etc. Another next step is we'll be looking to merge Brightlayer charts into Brightlayer UI. Now, if you are not familiar with Brightlayer charts, it is a design system currently maintained by CIP, Center for Intelligent Power. It's ETA's design system for data visualizations for UI designs primarily. And they currently have a few guidelines that are based on branded UI for the color palettes, for how to use charts, for how to style your charts properly, as well as how to style rechart based applications, which is a React library, how to style your rechart charts to make it consistent with the branded charts style. And we should recently have a conversation and decided that we would like to simplify the two design systems so that it's not like everything everywhere, and also to ensure a long-term consistency. We are in a conversation to merge Brightlayer UI and Brightlayer charts together. And this is not going to happen immediately, but definitely starting next year, or maybe Q2 of next year, we'll be slowly but steadily trying to merge the two assets. So hopefully that brings you, our user, a better end user experience. And next, very interesting thing, we are introducing what we call Brightlayer UI Flex Award. This is an award hosted by Brightlayer UI team to recognize distinguished individuals and teams in UI design and the development at Eaton during 2022 and 2023. So if you ever launch a new product, or you have ever made a major renovation between the old product and the new product, like completely reworking your UI, you'll be eligible for entering yourself or others to the Brightlayer UI Flex Award nomination. We are looking for 4 different categories: the contributor, which is people who have been designers or developers who have been contributing back to the Brightlayer UI design system; community, that is designers and developers who has been helping each other out, went out of their way and helping designers or devs from other teams to collaborate with them to further polish their product. We'll also be recognizing learners, those who step out of their comfort zone and learn something unknown. And finally, execution. This is for a whole team. So who actually did the best UI design and dev in the past 2 years? And it's called an award, so it's meaningless if it's an award without a trophy. So yes, there will be some physical awards for the winner. There will be stars, there may be T-shirts, and there may or may not be certificates. So I will be sending out a more detailed email on this, following up shortly after this presentation. It will include all the guidelines for how to submit, what materials to prepare. But I will be looking forward to recognize the best individuals and teams who has been really working hard to have a really solid user interface in the past 2 years. And yeah, winners will be generously awarded. So with that concludes today's presentation. Before I ask for questions, just giving a quick shout out. If you have any concerns for UI design and dev and you want to ask one of us, you can certainly always email the brightlayui@eaton.com. But we are also pushing for using the Viva Engage group, or you still do not like that name, it's an good old Yammer group. You simply search for it on Teams under or whichever platform you prefer. Go to Viva Engage and search for UI design and dev. So if you have any question that's not very specific to a certain particular issue that only your team is facing, go ahead and ask it publicly so that your answer can benefit people behind you, or sorry, people in the future. And also your question are likely going to receive more, how should I say, more flows, more traffic from others who might be just browsing on Viva Engage, and they might be able to see your question and answer it faster and in this more community fashion. And if you email us and then we find your question too good to be just answered through email, we'll also be encouraging you to post your question on the Viva Engage group. All right, that said, that actually concludes our presentation today. So I'll be seeing, is there any questions from anybody that I can answer right now?
Huayan, I have one question.
Go for it. Emma?
Yeah. So demo was really good. So regarding the material design too, so existing project has a material design too. So do we need to also upgrade the versions in to the material 3 for our designs, or it will be only for the upcoming or new projects?
I would say it's there's no hard deadline on this. I understand that a lot of Ethan projects are having their own pace and they may have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of legacy issues in both design, dev, or resource concerns. There's
Mm-hmm.
no hard push on any of the upgrade from our side. Yes, it will be highly encouraged for new projects, definitely. Otherwise, the migrating cost is going to be too high. But for all projects, it's completely up to your own pace. Yes, but as mentioned before, definitely take into consideration for our maintaining. Uh, Let me find the slide. So there's definitely the concern for maintenance. So as Brightlayer UI gradually drop the support from Material Design 2 and migrating to Material Design 3, if your team needs a particular feature, you will have to either PR or make a branch from our repository or from our components data sheet, change it yourself, and ask us to review and then merge it back to Brighter UI for the older legacy ones, or you just have to figure it out locally within your own project how to make things happen.
Okay, sure.
Another thing to consider there too is design is ahead of development right now. So all the stuff that Wyan showed in the Figma sticker sheet, none of that stuff is currently available today through our component libraries. So if you were to design your current products in that, it would not be able to be implemented yet. That's something that we're doing gradually, like Wayne said, kind of rolling that out throughout next year.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Wayne.
Any other good questions?
There's a couple in the chat, Wayne.
Okay, okay. I should probably trim this chat part out because I don't want my full team's record to be visible on the internet. But let me see. Okay, is the new Material Design 3 look approved by the branding team? Melissa is pretty chill. Melissa is more concerned about on the color side, and then we already get her thumbs up for that part. Also, or if you're concerned about how Eden.com looks different from Material Design 3, the way it's currently treated, my understanding, is it's separate. So UI design sort of have is under the domain of Brighter UI, whereas the rest of the Eden is with the branding team. So the answer is a yes. The color is consistent. Everything else is inheriting from design. So I'll say it's a yes. Let's see, next one from Greg. Are existing projects based on Material Design 2 okay to maintain that design? I believe this is satisfactorily answered already. Yeah, you can, as mentioned before, yes, you can definitely stick with Material Design 2. We do not have a harsh deadline. We do not force you to go for Material Design 3. It's entirely up to your project's pace. All right, cool. Any other questions while you have the chance? No, yes, maybe. Okay, 2 action items for people. Definitely go out and try the new Material Design 3 component sticker sheet. And in a short moment, we'll be announcing, sending out a follow-up email for the Flex Award. So go ahead and nominate yourself or others that you see fit. And be definitely looking forward to the best designers and developers across the whole Eden. And as always, you can always send us email or just ask straight in the Viva Engage group. And with that, thanks everybody for joining with me, and I will see you guys online later. See you. And thanks for attending.
Thank you.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Is it that sort of situation?
Yeah.
Congrats.